Welcome back to Question Period. Well, when Donald Trump won the U.S. election, civil rights activist and political commentator Van Jones became a lightning rod figure when he said on CNN that the victory was part of something he called a white lash. Since then, there's been a heated debate about just what kind of administration Donald Trump will run. I spoke to Van Jones when he was in Toronto attending an event at the Broadbent Institute, and I wanted to find out if he believes Donald Trump has enabled the far right's growth in the United States. Van Jones, welcome to Question Period on CNN on election night. You said Donald Trump's victory was part of this white lash. Now you've had a couple of weeks to digest that. How do you view it now?
First of all, I said it was a white lash in part. That's the part they always leave out. I said it was a white lash in part. In part, it was a response to a changing country, and that's where the painful part comes in. And if anybody thought I was wrong, just look at who Trump is now putting in positions of power. When you're talking about people who have ties to the so-called alt-right, which is basically just like a 21st century rebranding for neo-Nazis, for white supremacists, for white nationalists, that's the part I was talking about. Certainly, all of Trump's voters are not a part of that, and many of them, frankly, many of Trump's voters were turned off by that hatred and voted in spite of it, not because of it. But you still can't deny that there is a very, very toxic strain of bigotry that is escalating in the Trump phenomenon.
All right, Van Jones, I want to pick up on what you just said, though, because lots of people want to know what this term alt-right means. It's often been associated with Steve Bannon. Now he's the chief strategist for Donald Trump at the White House. He's also the former chairman of Breitbart News. On our program last week, Howard Dean, who's currently running to be the chair of the Democratic National Committee, called Steve Bannon a Nazi. Many people said that's absolutely wrong. So what is the alt-right?
Well, the fact that we are debating what, in fact, to call these bigots. Should we call them alt-right? Should we call them white nationalists? Should we call them neo-Nazis? Should we call them Nazis? Gives you a sense that we are far off track in the United States. The idea that anyone near the White House should even be someone about whom you have to have discussions like this is very, very troubling. I can't define the alt-right because it seems to be just a rebranding of a bunch of stuff that has been thrown out of public life since Nazi Germany.
All right. To be fair, though, Donald Trump was interviewed by the New York Times this week. He denounced the white nationalists who have supported him. He's denounced that group of white supremacists who gave the Nazi salute and criticized Jews. He said that Steve Bannon is not remotely anti-Semitic. Question: has Donald Trump done enough to denounce these white supremacist or racist people who have jumped on the Trump train?
No. And frankly, he's done more retweeting of those groups and winking and nodding at those groups than he's ever denounced them. He's only said a couple of times that he had a problem with them, but he was routinely throughout the 18-month campaign retweeting not just these groups, but some of their worst messages, some of their worst memes, some of their most dishonest graphics showing, there's a wave of black people killing white people, which is the opposite. White folks are killing white folks and black folks are killing black folks. But the idea that he would retweet something from a Nazi group or from a alt-right group that says black people are killing white people gives you a sense of where his head is at.
Van Jones, his daughter married an Orthodox Jew and she converted to Judaism. Do you believe Donald Trump is a racist?
I have no idea. I think Donald Trump is playing around with some of the worst things in our country. He's giving aid and comfort to people who are racist, and that's bad enough. I don't know. Listen, I've met the man once. I have no idea what's in his heart, and that's not the point. The point is the way he is conducting himself has created a wave in our country of swastikas everywhere, white power graffiti, N-word graffiti all across the country. You have high schools and elementary schools where young people are yelling, build that wall at minority children. And he's created this massive sense of discomfort for racial minorities. His economic populism is one thing, but this white racial populism, which is all mixed up in there, is something altogether different.
All right, let me move quickly, Van Jones, to Canada. Trump sent out a video about what he's going to do in the first 100 days of the White House. He didn't mention building the wall. He didn't mention ripping up NAFTA, which is a big deal for Canadians. From our perspective, what should we expect from a Trump administration?
Well, listen, nobody knows. I'm quite sure Trump doesn't know. Whatever intern or subcommittee wrote that thing for him to read on the teleprompter, those people may be fired tomorrow. This is the most erratic person in public life, not just in politics, but in public life, period. So, there are two Trumps. There is teleprompter Trump, which, he can usually read reasonable things and he doesn't always go off script. And then there is terrible Trump, the Trump that does not have a teleprompter, who tweets in the middle of the night and says whatever he wants to. And so you can't actually figure out where he's coming from. And that uncertainty that he creates around himself is his biggest weapon, but it's the biggest weakness for our country right now.
Okay, but before I let you go, you got really strong views on Donald Trump. I got to ask you, are you going to run? Have you thought about entering politics and, well, throwing your hat in the ring?
Hey, listen, I've seen the top job up close, and no way. I'd rather be the stick than the piñata.
Well, you certainly are doing quite a job being the stick. Van Jones, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.